Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Homefront Harmony, the podcast that specializes in providing military families with access to financial, mental, and well-being resources. Today, I'm very excited for the guest that we have joining us. Not only did he serve our country as a sergeant in the Army in the infantry, but now he has transitioned to the civilian life and is going to go through everything with us, taking the turns and twists of that. So please join me in welcoming Justin Parker. How are you, sir?
Hello, thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it greatly. So now tell me about your time in the Army. I know you were in for about 8 years.
Yeah, I was in for about 8 years, deployed 4 times into 3 different duty stations. Kind of been all around. Infantryman, started as a 240 gunner, moved all the way up to team leader, then squad leader. Got out, and now I try to become a foodie in Las Vegas.
I love it, love it, love it. So now you transitioned from the military life to the civilian life about 5 years ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
right around the end of 2018.
Okay. And when you decided you were going to transition out of the military life, did you have a plan in place? Did you know what you were going to do?
Absolutely.
Okay,
No,
that
I
was a
didn't.
no negatory. So what happened when you did get
Um,
out? What did you do?
So when I first got out, I came to Vegas. The most planning I did was getting the apartment, essentially. Gotta have a place. So
Fair.
that was number one. Once there, I got a job with Nike, which I stayed there for about 6 years.
Okay.
Really cool company to work for. Enjoyed my time there. But with that, it was really hard transitioning and finding who you are personally, because you're so used to putting so much time and effort and investing into yourself in the military and stuff like that. But now when you become a civilian, you kind of just do your 8 hours and then what?
Right. Right.
You do your work and then you go home, but it's so much different than going to work in the military because you're there from like sun up to sundown, or something that you're doing is to fine tune your skills. But when you're at a job, you don't really fine tune your skills. Kind of just working and then, oh, your shift's done, time to go home later.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
So that was a little interesting for me, just because as NCO, as most leaders, you come home and then you're just planning for the next day or planning for the next training cycle, stuff like that. But now as a civilian, I come home and get to hang out with kids. You get to hang out with the wife, the dog. But with that, as cool as
You
that
got
sounds,
to. You're forced to.
you got as as cool as that sounds, there's that little thing behind you where it's like, but I should be doing something more with myself just because I'm used to that in the military life. Are always willing to give a little bit more, stay a little bit longer, do a little bit extra for you and your guys and stuff like that. So that's a little bit different when you get out.
Now, I can understand that. We've had a few of our guests talking about your identity in the military versus when you transition out, having a different identity and figuring that out. But instead of, sticking with Nike, you decided to basically become an influencer, podcaster, foodie extraordinaire. How did you segue from Army infantry to foodie podcaster influencer?
So the whole foodie thing is 100% backed by like mental health.
Okay.
I am 100% disabled. I have PTSD, like no trying to hide that. It came with the job. I don't hate the military for it. I don't hate having it. You have to work through it.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
got to work through it, and you got to be a better you makes a better us. I always say that. So Breakfast Brigade was kind of like a nod to me and my friends, because how many of you guys had breakfast PT? Does anyone know about breakfast PT, where you guys would say you're going for like a 5-mile run, but you dip out to your cars and you guys go have breakfast?
Oh, I like that. I could do that.
A lot of people won't talk about that, but I know you guys do that.
Okay. Okay.
So Breakfast Brigade was a nod to my friends, and that's where I came up with the name. But having PTSD, you kind of just need to find that 1 or 2 things where you could really hone in and focus on. And photography was the thing for me.
Okay.
Kind of enjoyed it before, and food, I'm a fat ass at heart. So like food has always been a main focal point at every base that I go to. As soon as I get there, oh, hey, like where's the good food spots? Where's the place where this is at,
Yeah.
Being at Fort Stewart and living in Savannah, like the Southern food, oh God, The
He's
fish
going to
when
need a moment.
the
Yeah.
fish when I lived up in Seattle at
Oh,
Fort
yeah.
Lewis, like
Oh, yeah.
each little base has their own little nooks and crannies and their own little secret spots that are so good. So I kind of just did what I would normally been doing, and now I just kind of did it on Instagram, and it's kind of just blown up to what it is today. And really proud of it, and it's just been really fun, and everything's an opportunity. So,
That's awesome. I love that. I love that on so many levels. One, I don't think people understand. PTSD is not just something some people get. My goodness, we went through a pandemic. And actually, enough of what that trauma caused, there's a lot of people with PTSD from it. It's not always necessarily just a certain particular individual can get it. It is something that happens, and there's varying levels of it, and there's varying ways to handle and to deal with it. So if you are suffering, one, you are not alone. You know to reach out to us. Two, look, there's people fighting and surviving every day, just like you. So deep breath in and out. You've got this. So daddy was South Pacific because Navy supply. So my favorite has always been yakisoba from a street vendor.
There we go.
In Japan. Yeah.
That was from a street vendor. Oh, it hits different from a street vendor.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. So good. So, okay. So you were dealing with your identity from transitioning out of the military.
Like, it's really weird. Like, it's kind of weird to say, but it's when you introduce yourself and you're like, oh, hey, I'm Justin.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that sounds a little different than like, oh, hey, I'm Sergeant Parker. Oh,
right.
Hey, or just Parker or this, oh, name tape says your last name. But then when people are like, oh, hey, Justin, what's up? You're like, you forget to look because you haven't been called that in so long.
Yeah.
So just that. And then, but going with the whole food thing, just being able to sit down, I would have to force myself to be there for more than like 10, 15 minutes because I would always just leave and dip out.
Okay.
Because why would I be here? There's no reason. Like, just kind of sweating bullets, staring at stuff. Like, I never really took my time to eat. So with Breakfast Brigade, you got to get the different angles. You got to get the lighting. You look like a weirdo, but hey, like, I'm working on myself. So like, I'm standing on a chair trying to get the good views and stuff like that. And the more and more I did it, the more and more that became my identity. And like, I became Breakfast Brigade and like a foodie, and like anyone talks to me about food, like we can go 20 minutes, 30 minutes just talking on an Egg McMuffin. Like it don't matter. I love food. Like,
oh yeah. My husband and me, we are foodies. We have to be careful. We could get each other really fat really quick. Good wine, good food. Those are our things. We like them. Now, what I love, we were kind of talking a little bit earlier before the show about the fact that you were saying doing this podcast, this Instagram page, the whole Breakfast Brigade thing about it helped you to, because you used to avoid going out to the restaurants and you would watch the door, you'd eat really, really fast so you could get the heck out of the door. And this kind of made you start having to stay longer.
Yeah.
And having to experience it.
Push those boundaries. Like, we're so used to doing it in the military world, but for our job and not for ourselves. We can talk about working out and running and pushing the limits and sweating bullets and stuff, but you can just use that same mentality, switch it, and say, like, I'm going to push the limits for me to not be nervous. Go here.
Okay.
I'm going to push the limits, and, like, it's not that bad staying in one spot for a little bit longer. Like, I know that there's just cooks and waitresses back there. Nothing bad is going to come through that door. It's okay,
Yeah.
And you kind of have to test yourself a little bit like that and like make yourself kind of get into that to break the patterns, break the cycle.
I love that. So for your first attempt, we'll say, as you went out to do it, what were a couple of like goals or challenges you had for yourself?
So my first time going out, it was at Skinny Fats. Love that place.
Oh, that's a popular one.
The shrimp tacadillas.
Okay.
It's like a shrimp taco quesadilla all wrapped in one. It's,
okay.
But
is that on the happy or healthy side? Sorry,
but just having like a big camera and a big light and like taking pictures, like I already had half the restaurant looking at me like a weirdo, like, because, I think this was around 2019, 2020, before the pandemic and everything. So like influencers and like social media, like there was still kind of like not that very big per se.
Gotcha.
It was still kind of weird seeing someone with a big camera or a light, like taking pictures of their food, like in public, like, oh,
Right.
So just having those eyes on me definitely got me a little nervous, but it was like, look, focus on the work, focus
Uh-huh.
on the photography. Like
Hmm.
that was the challenge. Let's try to get a good picture. This is baby steps. Let's
That's
just get a
awesome.
good picture. Um, didn't really have anywhere to post it. I edited it a little bit and was like, oh, cool. This is now what? So I made the Instagram page and I posted it, and like random people started liking it. And okay, let me try it again. Let me go to a different restaurant. Let me go here. Let me go here. And it's just slowly becoming a thing, and it's snowballed into what it is.
That's awesome. I love that. I love it too because I appreciate that you're giving yourself grace
Yeah.
because we don't give ourselves grace very often and we have to. And sometimes it is baby steps. It is very minor shuffling, but
Yeah.
a little shuffle is better than no movement at
Any
all.
progress is better than no progress.
Right. And they give you that step up. What I like is that you found something that you enjoy. Food. Hello. Ooh, food is good. If I could eat everything I wanted and not have to worry about working out, that'd be great. But that's something that helped you, I think, a lot in this stepping stone to get here. Now,
Yeah.
you started this right before the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic hit. So how did you balance? Because I imagine with that was a little bit of a dance.
Yeah. So with the whole pandemic thing going on, I think since I was still like technically like a small creator, no one was really like wanting me to come out and stuff. But when I did go out, there were certain rules put in place, wear the mask, wear the certain tables away from each other.
Yeah.
I still got the opportunities to do what I like to do
Okay.
because I was still a paying customer at the time. Like I'm just sitting there eating. And if anything, it was a little bit easier because there was less people around.
Well, that's a good point. Progress.
Yeah, and a little with that too, with social media being social media, and like I gotten more opportunities to do other things in the veteran community. I partnered with Mission 22 one time.
Okay.
There's a guy named Peter who's like a ultra marathon distance runner. He did 100 miles in one day. And I got to partner with him. I did 10. Hey, go me.
I do 30 minutes on my treadmill and I do 2 miles. Good night. Okay.
So that was another incident. I think that was 2021 where we got to do something. He did the same thing 2022, and then I did 22 miles. So like Breakfast Brigade was the initial starter of focusing on myself and making myself better for the community.
Okay.
And the more it got bigger and bigger and bigger, now I got to use my story, essentially, the power that I have for veterans, and start implementing that into the community. So Breakfast Brigade has slowly turned into like an event for veterans. Just recently, I have a friend, Brandon from Vegas. What's up, man? He hooked up we had 4 food trucks at Wallflower Dispensary.
Okay.
If you were a veteran, you and your family ate for free.
I love that.
All you did was just show up, show your little VA card, and you're like, hey, man, me, wife, and kids want 6 tacos.
Love that.
Slinging tacos or something like that. Boom, it's for free. And so normally it's been going on. We did Jesse Ray's barbecue on Memorial Day.
Okay.
So that was really cool because we're trying to break that, switch it a little bit. Memorial Day is always sad. We miss the homies, we're always at the bar, something like that. But last Memorial Day, we switched it up and we said, hey, tell your stories of your friends at Jesse Ray's barbecue.
I love that.
I think it was close to like 250, 300 people, something like that. Like
That's
all
awesome.
came between, I want to say like 11 and 4 or 11 to close. But we had an opportunity to feed Vegas veterans now instead of just feeding me. Like,
right. I love it.
So it's just slowly building and building. And it's all from mental health, essentially, me focusing on my mental health in order to help Vegas veterans.
Well, that's great because we talk a lot about mentoring and supporting, and sometimes the guidance you get from someone who went through it impacts differently than just someone trying just to help. And I think that's huge to it. And I love the military community. I always have. It doesn't matter where I go. Somebody finds out my dad was Navy.
So tight.
Oh my gosh, I have family. So I love to see when we're doing events and we're reaching out and we're getting involved and we're helping, whether it's for the veterans, the active duty, whatever, because I think it's essential to what we do. One of the national groups I belong to actually has a program that is mentoring. And it's focused on transitioning those coming out of service who are going to end up going into the federal contract space
Okay.
so that they can educate and learn, because it's different
Mm-hmm.
when you're in the service versus when you're on that, commercial
Yeah.
side of it. And I love seeing that because they unite and they click, and
Mm-hmm.
so many in that world are from that because it's familiar to them.
Yeah, it's just what we're used to.
Yeah. You completely broke out of the box and started the foodie guru thing.
Yeah.
And I love how it's evolved and where it's going. What do you hope you're going to be able to do with Breakfast Brigade going on?
Honestly, just keep doing what I'm doing now. And just, if I'm trying to hit up more like veteran-owned businesses, stuff like
Okay.
that. Granted, I have my second kid now, so it kind of slowed down a little bit. But
Okay.
hopefully we'll pick it up in the future.
Mhm.
But there's a lot more veteran-ran businesses than you guys think.
Yep.
Yo Daddy Donuts. Hey,
Yep.
what's up? If you guys are in Henderson, Yo Daddy Donuts. She's an Air Force veteran. She
Love
works in
it.
the back, makes some bomb donuts.
Okay. Done.
Let's see, Leathernecks Restaurant.
Okay.
There's a couple more. I wrote them down, but yeah, there's so many different ways you could help the military.
Yep.
There's military-ran support groups, like how you were talking about. There's military-ran restaurants. There's so much you could do that the military and Vegas can come together and do with. I think the biggest thing that resonated with me was I went to UNLV for breakfast. They had a conference because one of their students won the Student Veteran of the Year award.
Oh, okay.
I want to say it was 2023.
Okay.
And the biggest thing that I took away from that I always tell people was, when you're watching like that football game or that baseball game and you see the catcher take off his helmet and it's a dude coming home, it's a mom coming home from deployment or whatever. The whole crowd isn't the military. It's not just military in the crowd. It's all of us.
Yep.
And we all feel that a little bit, and that little tingle. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those videos.
We are a lot more similar and a lot more, we can come together a lot easier than what people think.
And I think that I love that you bring up the veteran-owned businesses, because it's shocking to people when they find out how many veteran-owned and military spouse-owned businesses there are out there that they frequent and they had no idea on it. I shout from the top of the mountains. I'm so proud of my father's service. I can't even stand it. It's just something that I was raised with, that I have a pride in, that I love. And especially the restaurant world, those are really tough businesses to get into.
Super hard.
And so I'm always in awe.
I think it's like a 60% failure rate.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a big risk to open up a restaurant.
It is. And it amazes me just the grit that some of these people give. And it would make perfect sense to me if it would be a veteran who would own a successful restaurant, because you need that. You need that determination and that grind to do it. Yeah, absolutely. So that I love that. And please, yes, call out every veteran-owned military spouse, whatever. We talk about y'all. It's about you guys. We're going to mention you and talk about you. Now, when you put together your event for your Breakfast Brigade, girl can't talk. When you put it together, you start talking about it. You've just promoted these basically through social media, correct?
Yeah, 100%. It's all through Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that. And I know it sounds weird, like I'm 35, still making stupid little videos on food, but it's one of those things where it comes easier to me than doing something else. Like I would much rather make a video saying, come to this barbecue spot because we have an old Navy vet who's back here cooking.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we're not even going to comment on the age, because I might have a couple on you years wise. But you know what? What you're doing is you're being you, and you're being
100%.
honest to yourself. And I think that is the biggest thing, especially mental health wise for individuals. And it doesn't matter if you are the service member who transitioned out, if you are the spouse where your service member was deployed a lot, whoever is dealing with it, you need to be able to find something where you get to be honest and you. And maybe it is making silly videos.
Yeah.
I'm doing a podcast because it's a legacy and I love it to death.
I try to eat giant pizza slices.
See, there you go. You got to have your thing that you do. I wouldn't argue with you on that. I have a couple places I'll tell you about. But that is a key, I think, that we come into and where we go. And what is interesting to me is I have in my career now run into veterans of other countries, military service. And I still get the community I get from the US side of it. And I love that it's
That's
just
awesome.
that connection and that build to it. I think that is so cool that it just transitions no matter where you are globally on it. So for me, that's phenomenal. So, all right, let's play a little foodie game. Okay.
There we go.
All right. Favorite food?
My favorite food, Mexican food. Specifically tacos or burritos.
Okay.
100%. That will be my last meal. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. He's all Mexican food. I'm like, you're going to have to get specific. Okay. And what is your favorite meal of the day?
Favorite meal of the day. So I'm So I love obviously like lunch and dinner, but breakfast, it has to be breakfast. So with that, there's so many good breakfast spots out here that they don't really get a shame because Vegas is so used to just the nightlife, right?
True. Very true.
Everyone's here to just party or they're too hungover to go out to breakfast, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Stacks, griddle cakes, and Court Cafe. Best breakfast in town.
Wow. Notice how the first two started off with pancakes.
Yeah, Baby Stacks is like an Islander, Hawaiian themed pancake. They have like 17 different pancakes, all different flavors, super good. Oh, if you go to Griddle Cakes, you got some big boy portions.
Oh, big boy portions.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yep.
Like it.
Pancakes are like this big.
Oh, see, I love it when a pancake is the side of a plate.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like normally you get like the little small plate and it's like 2 or 3. Like Griddle Stacks or Griddle Cakes, they got 2 pancakes, covers the whole plate.
See, now, ironically, when I eat breakfast, I'm not a breakfast person. When I'm traveling, I always eat breakfast. And like on Sundays, my husband and I have a thing, we order breakfast at the house because it's the one day of the week we're both home.
Oh, nice.
And we try to be healthy, but breakfast burrito.
Can't beat it.
I love a good breakfast burrito. Got to have the chorizo in there. Sorry, got to give me my jalapenos. Girl likes spice. But it's funny because there's so much with food. I found there are certain meals, like if anybody can make me real lumpia or pancit, dude.
You're like, I didn't know I could eat this much. And just kept going.
Oh my gosh. That is like from my childhood. That is like, and my mother and my sister, same, like, good for yakisoba. Yeah, if you can make the yakisoba right, we're all about that. I like carbs. I don't know if everybody's caught on to that. Carbs are my favorite thing.
Carbs are my best friend.
Actually, steak is my favorite thing, but then there. So now, are you guys right now just trying to focus on the bigger events, or are you trying to do some smaller items where you can bring in some veterans in smaller groups versus just always doing like the big food truck events?
So right now it's more of trying to find people who want to do it and stuff like that. A lot of it comes from Brandon from Vegas, and then he uses me to get it out to the veteran community because he has more pull and ties than I do.
Gotcha.
So a lot of that is more of I'm helping him out for the veteran community because he knows that I have like a better veteran tie compared to him. So it's like, dude, for you, I'll sound the alarm. Like,
hey, I'll have to connect you with our friend B. Taylor. He's been on our podcast, and he has One Life organization. He is a veteran. He also has been in entertainment, et cetera. But the Pentagon has made him the ambassador for veterans and military spouses and such. And so his One Life organization is all about helping veterans, and they partner with all kinds of treatments for PTSD. And I think that what I love about your avenue of how you grew this social media world with the food guru and everything was it's something completely different from everything else we've heard of how people handled and worked through the PTSD. And I think that's so important because everybody's an individual. Everybody's going to react a different way.
Yeah.
So maybe what worked for one person wouldn't be the same way for another,
I definitely want to tell veterans out there that you don't have to go against the grain when it comes to mental health. If your job is stressing you out, if your job is the issue,
Yeah.
Sometimes you might have to take a step back and reevaluate your entire life and change a major factor.
Yep.
But when you do, a better you makes a better us. Like, it sounds super
Absolutely.
cheesy. It's one of those stupid little one-liners, but it's 100% true. And the more you focus on you to get better, the easier it is for your inner circle, your outer circle, and everyone around you.
Absolutely. No, that's very true. And we like cheesy. It's okay. We like those. They're fun to say. No, I think it's huge because it's such a conversation that people tend not to have. I've talked about being one of those people that, my dad told me to jump. I would jump and then I'd ask how high because I kind of had the military mentality.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was pushing it. Don't worry. My mom's going to watch this and be like, she didn't always jump, but that's okay. But also it's for me and for most of the military community I've interacted with, especially with a lot of veterans, there is a loyalty and it sometimes hurts you more than it helps you. You're almost loyal to a fault, and working through that balance of when that's good for you and when maybe you need to relook at it is hard.
Oh, 100%.
And especially when you're talking about in work. Well, today was just a bad day. It'll be better tomorrow or however. Sometimes you got to call yourself on your own shit.
Yeah.
If you're just having a moment, you got to kind of bring yourself out of it. And that's why the support and having the others to talk to is so great.
And I know, like, I'm not telling you to quit your job right now. Don't do that.
I did not advise that.
Just understand where these stressors are coming from. Understanding how to deal with them, breathing, working out, all those little things that you do. Now you got to put the meaning behind it.
Yep.
We work out all the time and that's cool, but why are you working out?
Yeah.
Are you just working out just because you're used to working out and you want to be healthy and stuff? Or are you trying to, go on that 30-minute walk and like start processing stuff and, it gets you. It's
that was some deep right there. I like that. I like that.
And it's one of those things where it's super easy. You could be like, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah. I do my treadmill and it helps me like de-stress and clarify. And I do it in the morning because if I don't, I'll find a reason not to do it later in the day. So it always has to be morning. And when my husband and I got together, I didn't realize I have a playlist I listen to. Apparently, I sing along to it rather loudly. I also have conversations about stuff I'm going to have that day and kind of role play with myself. And one day he came upstairs looking at me, just a big old grin on his face. And finally, when I got done, I'm like, what's up? He goes, do you have any idea how loud you are?
Oh, you heard that.
I'm free. And he's like, no, go do your thing. Do whatever you got to do to align. So yeah, it might seem silly to someone else, but it helps you. So sing the song. Yep. Rap away, baby. Rap away. All right. It was Enter Sandman by Metallica, but that's beside the point. So I'm just saying that was the happy place. So one of the things I wanted to kind of discuss with you, because you came out of the military life, you went into the real world, you had your job, you went, this isn't quite working for me. Were you aware at that time that part of the battle was from the PTSD, or were you just still trying to figure out the path you were going to take?
So when I first got out and when I immediately got out, definitely kind of rough. It was just one of those things where it's just like, I don't know what to do, man. Like,
fair enough.
So went to the VA, did around 8 to 9 months of therapy work with my therapist.
Okay.
And, we talked about certain things and learned how. The main thing for me was learning how to deal with them instead of just changing direction and going to do something else.
Running away.
Yeah.
Don't we all do that at some point?
And it's one of those things where it's, when you go to therapy, it's not like you're doing one task or talking about one topic the entire time. Like, we talked about my entire military career from start to finish, before, after, things like that. And that's what I needed. Not saying everyone needs it, but it was really good. I also partnered with my friends, Dan Lombard, who's owner of Project Refit, which is pretty much veterans coming together on like a Zoom call.
Okay.
And us having our own group session, you know,
Oh, that's
no
awesome.
therapist, no like certified therapist. You know what I
No,
mean?
just
It's
talking.
quite literally
Yeah.
a Zoom call with 10 little blocks from people from Florida, North Carolina, Georgia.
I love
And, you know,
it.
it's super random, but it's one of those things where it's like everyone in this call,
Mm.
we're at the point where we need to make a call. Like we definitely
Mhm.
need to be in this room and we definitely need to talk. And just from there, and I don't do it anymore just because it's kind of one of those things where you don't need to do it all the time. But when you do need it, it's
It's
there.
there.
It's
Yeah.
100% there.
That's awesome.
And they have built up a program for themselves up in like the New Hampshire, New Jersey area where they're taking veterans on trips, on
Oh,
like week-long
awesome.
trips. Like they're blowing up like crazy over there, which is really cool. But I always want to give them a shout out because that was one of the first nonprofits,
Mhm.
not VA related, completely random, just veterans wanting to help veterans.
Yeah.
And that right there helped me huge.
I think that's so phenomenal. What is amazing that I've encountered in my life is how easily a lot of military service members, veteran, active duty, whatever, their perspective on their self and their service is so different than on someone
Yeah.
else's. And they give themselves a hard time. I remember I had a gentleman I talked to at a conference and he had been a reservist. And I said, thank you for your service. And he said, oh, no, you don't thank me. I didn't go to combat. I said, did you serve? Were you willing to go if you were called?
Right?
My God, thank you for your service. Because I know plenty of people who wouldn't. So, you know, thank you for what you did. And that is one thing I think that people don't talk about either with the mental health in that military world is that it's very easy for them to downgrade what they've done.
100%. I have, I still talk to everyone that I served with, stuff like that. And towards the end of my career, being an NCO, I've already deployed 2 to 3 times already.
NCO is?
Non-commissioned officer. You're just in charge. Like you're the team leader, the
Just
squad
making sure everybody
leader.
knows. I have new people who don't know.
So being in charge and having these kids who are like, man, I want to go to war. I want to do this. Like, oh, I don't deserve anything because I didn't go to war. I was like, you guys are here, right?
Right.
Like you guys are doing more than half the people chilling at home.
Yep.
And like the war happened at a time. Like, sorry, your parents didn't have sex before that. Like, what do you want me to tell you? You know? And I would literally tell them that because it was 2015. It's 2018 now. Like, what, you can't jump back 3 years just to get a CIB or just to have a cool story. Like,
all right, he's throwing out acronym CIB.
Combat Infantry Badge.
Thank you very much.
So infantrymen get that when you actually like shoot at the enemy and take combat, take fire, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
One of those awards show that you actually did what signed up to do type of thing.
Yeah.
But with that, it's really not kind of sad or like degrading or anything, but I know a lot of the people who don't have it really want it. And it's one of those things where it was a timing thing. Like, sorry guys, like the war's not here, the war's not happening, but that doesn't mean your service or your job is less
any
important.
less. Yeah.
Like, what happens in 2 weeks if there is one?
Yeah.
Yep. Like you're going.
Oh yeah. No, when my husband and I got married, so his father was drafted into the Vietnam War. My father walked away from a college scholarship and went in and ended up being a lifer in the Navy because that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law, like we were at a Knights game and they said, can we have the veterans stand up? And he's like, well, I don't need to stand. And we're like, dude, you served, stand up, kind of thing.
Hey, I don't blame him. I'm like that too. I'm like my wife and kids are like, get up. And I'm like,
see, I'm the one standing behind them being like, whoop, whoop, look at them. I think it's so awesome. Oh yeah, totally. To me, it's just, I couldn't be more grateful and more proud for what they do. And that's why like this podcast, doing this, talking to people, getting resources for them is so huge to me because it matters for every single member of the military family.
Oh, 100%.
It matters. And it needs to be known. And like you being so open and honest and talking about what mental battles you had, where you've been through, what you still are going to battle for the rest of your life because it just doesn't go away, guys. Sorry. You figure out how to live and be better with, but it's there. It's so helpful to others who are dealing.
Yeah.
I
hope so.
So gun shy is a horrible word for it, but we do. We get, it's mental health. We don't want to talk about that.
Ooh, I'm not.
You
Yeah.
know, or like it's a weakness. No, it's not a weakness. Just like my sister gives me a hard time because I think I'm weak when I'm crying, and that's not a sign of weakness. That's just me being human and having emotions, which suck. But she constantly, she'll be like, babe, you're not weak because you're crying. Like, I know, just irritates me. But it's that we get those things in our head
Yeah.
and we got to work through them and have a conversation. And geez, you're just being so awesome and being so open
Oh,
and
thank you. I
upfront about it.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you. And you've done so much, my friend. I absolutely love what you've done. And the fact that you are taking it, giving it back to the veterans in the military community.
And I think giving back is a whole lot easier. This is also another thing too. Giving back is a whole lot easier than working on yourself too. So
Okay.
that might be a first step for people who don't want to work on themselves.
Okay.
So I've definitely met some people throughout some of these events and just talking to my friends, and a lot of them don't. No one wants to deal with themselves and work on themselves. But
Yeah.
if you put yourself in the situations where you're helping someone else who has the same problems as you, and you recognize that,
Mm-hmm.
you can see, like, you know what? Me listening to him makes me want to go talk to someone.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try to do a little reverse psychology on that thing.
Hey, I like it. Twist it up. Twist it up.
There's no right answer when it comes to either helping the veteran community or,
Mhm.
you could thank them, you can buy them a present, you could do this. There's so many different ways that you can do something for the veteran community that isn't just thank you for serving, or, like waving a little flag. There's so many different things.
Oh,
But
yeah. Oh, yeah. And we talk about it. You have the enlisted, those who just go in and they're serving regular. Then you have the officers where they had got their college degree and they're a higher level to it. Every single one of them, when they transition out of the service, the path is going to be different.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter who. There are some enlisted who went on to make millions of dollars and have extremely successful businesses. It just, everybody's path is going to be slightly different on that. I love the giving back in the veteran community because I find that it's easier in the military community, some conversations to have with people just because they know.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't matter if you just got out or you're like 75. Like me, if you're wearing that hat, like I can totally sit down and just have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Super easy because we kind of, the hardest part of our days are very similar.
Yeah.
So really, no matter what we talk about, it's pretty chill. Because
That's
we already
awesome.
know, like, the hard part, we've already did the hard part.
Yeah.
Our hard part's the same.
Yeah.
So like,
No, it's funny because my father would be out for a while and he would be talking to someone and he's like, oh, yeah, I haven't been in for that. But it would just, all of a sudden, the conversation would just flow.
Mhm.
And you're like stepping back, let them have their conversation, which I absolutely adore and love on that. So that is a phenomenal thing. All right. So what other restaurants do we need to have people going to, veteran-owned restaurants?
Ooh, veteran-owned. There's a food truck out here that is a pizza food truck, and it has like a big gold dome, and I totally forgot what it was called, but I will look it up and get back to you on that.
I love that. Too fun. We're going to look for the food truck with the
Let's
gold
see.
dome.
I'm drawing a blank. I don't know.
I
Put
got
on the
him.
spot.
All right. Well, here's what
Um,
we're going to do. When we start posting about this episode, we're going to tag you on it, and you remember to tag in those people so we can
Oh,
make sure
absolutely,
people
I
know
will.
where to go and get that food because I love it. I love it to death. I think it's awesome.
But I will leave on this note, though. So because with veterans, there's different age groups, obviously.
Mhm.
And being in the position that I am, I definitely get to see those different age groups. And there's different scenarios and different issues for each age group. And
Very
stuff.
true. Very
So
true.
I want to talk to the younger age group because I feel like they get overlooked all the time.
Youngins, we're talking to you.
And this is like, if you got out at like 20 to 25, one, go check out your VA home loan. You're never
Yes.
too young to own a house,
Yes.
which you can do. Two, when you go to school, look for your veterans room. Most schools, pretty much all schools, have a room specifically for veterans in your college campus. I go to Nevada State over in Henderson. It's on the 3rd floor of the RAC building. All you
Okay.
got to do is just sign in, and we have our own little cubicle about this size with a computer, a couch, things like that. UNLV has their own. Theirs is way better than ours, but they have
It's a
like
little bigger.
Yeah,
It's a little bigger.
definitely a little bit bigger. they have a bunch of stuff going on there. When they have they definitely have a full veteran program running over there, which is very cool to see. And I hope Nevada State gets on board with that soon. Um, but yeah, there's a lot more resources for younger veterans that a lot of you guys get overlooked because you don't want to say that you were in or,
Mm-hmm.
PTSD. You guys are going to be the future of our veteran community. And I don't want you guys to forget that. So think about that and see if you want to give back to your community, because veterans giving back, it's just one of those things that's going to happen. As all
Mm-hmm.
the old veterans that I talk to, all of them want to hop on board. Like, what? You've been doing this for how long?
Yeah.
Let me know when the next one is. Let me know when the next one is. I know a guy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So think about that, all you young veterans. You guys are going to give back to the community pretty soon.
You can give back now. If you served, you served. Give back now. Just saying. Come on down. We'll take it. I think what's amazing is that, one, I had no idea about the veterans room on the college campuses. That's awesome. So everybody look into that for your college campus. Find that out. But two, you're right. There's gaps of where we miss people, and the younger who maybe just served 4 years and got out sometimes are not feeling the vet vibe, so to speak.
And I think it's because, like, I still talk to all my friends that I served with too, and a lot of them, they were younger, and they were like, "Oh, hey, Sergeant Parker, like, what do I do in this situation? I don't know how to, like, is it regular for my rent to go up like this?" I was like, "Whoa, your rent went up? Like, let me see this."
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they might have not have learned, that they're going through or they're learning now. And just hearing their concerns, like, I know for a fact 7 more of you have the same issue.
Right.
Right. Like, make sure to call Wilson too. Like, tell him how to.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole paying it forward thing. That's the whole growth of it. As they get mentored by you, then they can mentor someone else to guide someone else on it. Yep. And honestly, guys, always the rule. If you don't ask the question, the answer is no. Always. So at least ask and find out some information. It's not a bad thing to know about. So, and we talk about VA loans all the time. So love that you brought that up with them, and a great point to have.
I think it was about, so I bought my house 2019.
Okay.
And I have 2 other friends from when I was stationed at Fort Bliss. They live out here. And we had the conversation. We were like, "Oh, well, not the right time. I don't know. Da, da, da." I was like, okay, just letting you know, like, this is how much it is for veterans to get. I had no idea about the VA home loan. So I was like, just telling him how, like, bro, this is pretty cheap. Like,
we talk about it a lot, because it's amazing how many people don't know about it.
No idea.
No clue.
No idea.
Yeah.
So just telling them, and they're like, "Oh, well, eh." And then comes to find out that 3 years later, they bought a house out here, and they're like, "Dude, we should, like, houses went up like 300,000. We should have listened to you at the time, blah, blah, blah." But it's just one of those things where, like, a lot of veterans don't know about the benefits that we have.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
And it's one of those things where I stumble upon them and I let the world know. Like,
I love it. I always joke that my father-in-law he knows a lot of discounts and things. And actually my dad didn't delve into that as much as he did. And so when I ended up, they became part of the family, he'd start saying to my parents, "Well, don't you take advantage of this discount? Well, don't you take advantage of that?" They were like, "There's that? There's that," and it just makes me laugh, because if it's not your normal character to research it, look into that, or it's not, like, for me, I didn't buy my first house until I was 40, and it would just happen to be the circumstances came up that I was going to buy a house. Now, I don't have a VA loan. That's not how that works, but it did get me my husband. So there you go. But it was never a priority, because I loved the lifestyle when we moved with the military. I didn't, my dad would always say, "Is there an anchor tied to your butt?" "No, there's not." Kind of thing to it.
That's
and
such a good dad joke.
I love that so much. That was what he said all the time. But I take pride now in the house I own, because I just didn't understand it. And he and my mother had bought houses with their VA loans. I knew they had owned homes. For me, it wasn't that. So I love it when we talk to the younger ones and get them to understand that it's not just, "Oh, I'm going to own a piece of property." There's so much more to it. And like, that VA loans were.
Let's see. What else vet ticks. Have you guys heard of vet ticks?
What is vet ticks?
Oh, man. Okay. So obviously, like, I'm a veteran that really likes entertainment, obviously in the food world. Vegas being Vegas, it's crazy, right? So Vet Ticks is a nonprofit or an organization, and they get cheap discounted tickets for pretty much everything.
Okay.
So the cool thing about it goes by state, which is really difficult if you're in Texas, Florida, California, because there's so many major cities.
Right.
But in Nevada, it's Reno and Vegas. That's about
Right.
it, right?
Yeah.
And if you go Reno or Vegas, it's mainly Vegas. So if you go on VetTix, you type in
Reno's
Nevada,
nice.
it gives you discounted tickets to events. And that is MGM casinos for comedy shows, Caesar's Palace, the Absinthe. There's all these Vegas Strip shows that you can get for like $15.
That's so awesome because I remember, and we're going back in my age, there used to be like a concierge on the base.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents could go and say, hey, we're trying to get tickets to the show or something like that. And because my dad was a veteran, they would. But Nellis was over there.
Yeah,
and my
that's
parents were
far.
over there. And so it was like getting those tickets. So I love that there's now an easier way to
It's
gather
so
them and get
easy
them,
and
you
so
know?
awesome. I've gone to AEW, WWE, Golden Knights games. The brother from Everyone Loves Raymond, he has a comedy show out here.
Oh, yeah.
I went to that one.
Yeah.
Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett,
Yeah, I
yeah.
went to his. There's so much on that little website, and it's just a Monday through Friday. Like, all right, we're going to be in town. Let's say you're coming in town on the 19th. Find the 19th. There's these shows. And
That's
you can
awesome.
get for like 4 tickets for like $15.
That's awesome. Remember we talked about in the episode with Maggie and Brian about continuing to woo and date each other. Date night, tickets
There
to
you
a
go.
show. Love it. Love it. Justin, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us. You know you're stuck now and you're going to have to come back.
Oh, absolutely.
And I appreciate everything you do. And I thank you so much for your service. And I appreciate your candid honesty about the mental health side. We need more people
absolutely.
like you talking about it.
I'm very prideful in when I say I'm tired of veterans committing suicide.
100%.
I've had a couple of friends do it. The ripple effects are a lot bigger than just that inner circle.
Yeah.
So if I could change that,
Yeah.
you know I'm going to.
Well, you are, my friend. You're changing it every day. So thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate that greatly. All right, my friends, we are at the end of the show. You know what it means. You're going to like, you're going to share, you're going to follow, you're going to get us on Instagram, you're going to get us on Facebook. We don't do TikTok because I don't like TikTok. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and we're on the Apple Podcast. I can't wait to see you guys again. We will talk to you next time.